What's up, guys? Welcome to the Crowncast. Today, we're going to do a Week 4 recap, some news in the NFL, power rankings, and our pick'em. So let's get right into it. So game one of Week 4,
Right.
we had Cincinnati versus the Jaguars on Thursday Night Football. I would just want to we're going to go over these. So what were your thoughts on that game? Because I think you watched that game, didn't you?
Just a little bit because I had Bengals defense, which did terrible for me in fantasy.
Yeah.
I had Joe Mixon. He got hurt. So that game was kind of a fluke for me, fantasy-wise.
Yeah, that's
But
tough.
I think that Trevor Lawrence didn't play terrible in the first half, at least.
I mean, it would, as a pro, I would say that was Trevor Lawrence's best game, which, some people would say that's not saying much. He didn't play exceptional, but I think there is something to be said for his growth as a player. And the Cincinnati Bengals defense was missing some talent. Let's not forget that Jesse Bates didn't play. And, they're banged up too, but they played really well against Cincinnati. And I think Cincinnati's a good team. I don't think they're a bad football team. They're definitely a top 15 team in the league right now, top 16 team in the league, I guess.
The Bengals?
Yeah, I would say so. They're 3-1.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a little low.
Oh, I mean, I just said top 15 because or 16 because that's a good number.
Right.
I feel like 16 is the division between bad teams and good teams.
That's fair.
And there's some bad teams or good teams that are being considered bad teams right now, but that's not what this is about right now. So I don't know. I think the Bengals played pretty poorly in the first half. I don't think that's a bold statement. But, their ability to come back and get into a game against a team they should beat.
Right. They were picked. They were favorites.
I mean, I think 99% of people in the world would have picked the Bengals to win that game. So it doesn't shock anybody that
I
they
think
won.
it's 19 straight losses for the Jags.
Yeah, some crazy number. Yeah, because they only beat the Colts last year.
Yeah,
right?
Week 1. So they lost
Damn.
15 straight, and then now 4 into this year.
Wow, that's tough. And they had that game, and the other thing is, just coaching errors. We'll get to him in a minute, but
You say him.
well, we all know who we're talking about.
Yeah, who he gone in 2 weeks.
If
Kyle Husky told me that he would be coaching was at USC in 2 weeks.
that wouldn't shock me, to be honest.
'Cause
So
he'll say that his head hurts or his heart hurts or something.
yeah, his heart hurts. We're talking about Urban Meyer, and we'll get into his scandal in a minute. But yeah, so Jaguars tried to give James Robinson was very efficient against them,
Right.
and they gave Trevor Lawrence the ball on 2 quarterback sneaks back to back, instead of letting Robinson run 1 yard.
Yes.
Now, as a James Robinson fantasy owner, that pisses me off, but also from a football perspective, your running back is playing really well. They've shown no ability to really stop him up the gut. Why in the world? If it didn't work the first time, why would it work the second? That's all I'm saying. But
So talk about Urban Meyer.
oh, good old Urban.
So if you guys didn't know, there was a video that got leaked. He was at a bar, and there was girls around him, especially a blonde girl, and she was pretty much just grinding up on him when he was sitting down. Someone took a video of it.
It's gone viral.
It's gone viral. The owner of the Jags has actually talked about it.
Yeah, Shad Khan.
There's been 2 closed door meetings about Urban Meyer. He had to apologize to the team. All of this is happening, and yet they have a division game coming up on Sunday. Obviously, they're 0-4, but it's still like a division game.
Right. And the other thing is about the closed door meetings. Michael Lombardi tweeted, I want to say Monday or Tuesday, that there was those 2 closed door meetings, and neither of them were about the upcoming game against the Tennessee Titans.
Right.
That's problematic. That's a distraction to the team. That doesn't bode well for an 0-4 team.
You have a rookie quarterback who needs all the help he can
Not
because he's
just-
a rookie.
Not just a rookie quarterback on a really bad team right now.
Well, they just
that's
lost one of their
struggling.
wide receivers, Marvin Jones, during that game.
No. DJ Chark got hurt in that game.
DJ Chark, yes,
Yeah, and
yes,
he's
yes,
out
yes.
for the season.
Yes,
So it's
yes.
And Chark is their deep threat guy. He's
good.
He's pretty good.
He's very
He
good.
hasn't had an insane season, but up to this point. But I mean, he's very good. You cannot afford for more of these distractions. And as the head coach, you're supposed to be the person who is the role model.
Yes.
And we're going on too long about this game, but because we got into this Urban Meyer conversation. But I don't know. The Bengals are going to have, or excuse me, the Jaguars are going to have a lot to think about over the next couple weeks.
Yes.
And I would be shocked to see Urban Meyer make it to the end of this NFL season.
I would
as
be
the head
shocked
coach.
too. And that's not to discredit how Joe Burrow played. You know, they're 3-1.
And the other thing is, there are always going to be trap games, and there are always going to be. It's the NFL. Good teams lose to bad teams a lot.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't unheard of, and like it goes the other way too. Bad teams beat good teams all the time.
Right.
So I mean, it's not like it's crazy to think that the Jaguars could have beat the Bengals, but the Bengals stormed back into that game, especially in the second half, and made it their game. They took control. And that's what you have to do when you're down against a bad team.
Yeah. I mean, you now have Jamar Chase in fantasy again. He's playing a lot better than a lot of people thought.
I think there was some concerns there because of the comments he had made about not being the inability to catch a football, and then the comments he made about like, oh, it's because there's no stripes on the ball. That seems a little ridiculous to me personally, but like, I think there was a reason to be concerned, but not a reason to think that he wouldn't turn it around.
Right.
You
Right.
know? Like early on, maybe there was some like, well, let's see how this goes. Now I think that people are, myself included, realizing that like, hey, the kid he's the number 5 pick in the draft for a reason.
Yes.
So, and also one quick thing, the Bengals O-line that we were all so worried about looks pretty damn good.
They do a lot better than I thought.
I wouldn't say that they're insanely good or they're, playing at this top 5 O-line level, but they're playing pretty well.
So the next game we got is Washington Atlanta, and that came down to the wire.
Yeah. So who won that game? I missed
Washington.
that. Okay, I thought so. I mean, look, and I said this early on. I love Taylor Heineke. I thought he should have had the starting job after how he played against Tampa Bay. Obviously, he was young. They didn't really want to give it to him. Feel bad for Fitzpatrick, but I don't think he's winning that job back when he comes back.
I don't think so either. I think Heineke's pretty hot right now.
I mean, you go with the hot hand, and especially when you're a team that's only 2-2. It's early in the season. The season's still young, but are we sure that there's...
Well, not only does Washington have to think about like their team, they have a contender in the division now with the Cowboys to worry about.
So, yeah, the Cowboys are pretty much dominating football right now.
On both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Not to like talk about the Cowboys yet, but I mean, we were chirping them like preseason. We were chirping their team. And I was pretty hot on their offense, but not their defense. And their defense is like lights out almost.
Yeah, and like I've said this before on the show, I'm kind of a self-proclaimed Cowboys hater. And honestly, I'm not going to get into that. You can give me hell for it, whatever. But they look good.
They do.
They look really damn good.
But to get back to the Washington Atlanta game,
Yeah.
So it came down right to the wire. Heineke threw like a touchdown pass with like not much time left, I believe. How about the Falcons, dude? Matt Ryan, they look bad.
Okay, so they do look terrible. And I don't think Matt Ryan should be their quarterback anymore, but they're paying him too much to get rid of him, and nobody wants that contract. So I will say this. They've hung with a couple good teams. They have. Let's be honest here. They hung with Tampa Bay. They hung with the football team who we both admittedly picked to win that division. So I don't think it's fair to say that Atlanta is the worst team in football like I was. For a couple weeks there, I was like, Atlanta might be the worst team in football.
We had to think about like, okay, so Julio Jones is gone.
Yeah.
Who's going to step up?
Well, I think people thought Kyle Pitts was going to be this world beater.
They thought that Kyle Pitts or Calvin Ridley was going to be the guy. And right now, it's Cordell Patterson.
Yeah, Cordero Patterson, the former, I believe he was a first-round pick. He played for the Vikings and the Bears.
He did play for the Bears.
And he kind of was like, he never really did anything with those teams. He was okay with the Bears. He had some explosive plays with the Vikings. He was primarily a kick returner, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was more like of a handcuff.
Well,
you know what I mean?
in fantasy terms, I guess. But like
yeah.
in terms of like league play, I would say he was a special teams guy at best. And maybe you get him on the field for a couple trick plays out of the backfield, but he was never a guy who was going to make a roster as like a number 1 receiver. And now he's a dual threat weapon out of the backfield.
Yes.
And he's playing really well for Atlanta, except that Atlanta's playing terrible everywhere else. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
But
So-
you know something interesting about that game? It was Washington's first win against Atlanta since week 2 of 2003. Did you know that?
No, I feel like they don't play each other a lot though.
No, but it is kind of interesting to think that in 18 years there's only one win against them, and I'm sure they've played each other a few times between then. So just a little fun fact for you.
Just a little fun fact.
Yeah.
We might skip this game because it was like 40-0, but it was Buffalo versus Houston.
I don't think there's anything to say about Houston. That was one of the worst football games I've ever watched in my life. But Buffalo is still firing on all cylinders.
I will say, Josh Allen is looking good.
He looks damn good, and that offense is rolling.
Like they're clicking, and Stephon Diggs is not even really like his peak yet this season.
Also, can we just talk about how Dawson Knox is slowly emerging as like a top 10, top 5 tight end in the league right now?
He looks damn good.
Like he's not getting the catches, but he makes the most of what he does get.
Right.
So-
I mean his red zone play is just insane. So the next game we got is good old Detroit versus Chicago.
Oh boy, I don't want to talk about this one too long because I'm depressed about it. I talked so much crap about how the Bears were going to lose to Detroit, and Detroit looked better than the Bears, and they let me down. They let me down hard.
So the Bears coach did mention after the game that moving forward, regardless if Dalton was healthy or not, Justin Fields is the guy moving forward.
Yeah, I think they just officially announced that yesterday, I want to
Yes.
say, which was Wednesday. But Fields, okay, look, he didn't look terrible in that game, but I'll give him credit. He made plays when he had to. But we're not gonna act like he had an insanely good game, right?
No, I don't even think he threw a touchdown pass, to be honest. And the one thing that's scary for the Bears is David Montgomery was like balling out, he got hurt.
Yeah, he had a couple really good games, and losing him is kind of like oh boy, Fields was 11 for 17 for 209 yards and an interception. That's not crazy.
It's not great stats.
And then there's going to be the people who are like, well, what about his rushing yards? Well, 3 for 9. Like, okay, so let's not put the cart before the horse.
Right.
Fields still has a lot of growing to do, and that O-line's still pretty bad.
And I mean, to talk about their defense is still
okay.
I would say like not above average, but it's
Average.
pretty close.
It's average.
It's pretty close to above average.
I would say it's just average, but that's just me.
Talking about
5
Detroit
inches.
real quick, dude. I think there was 2 or 3 turnovers in the red zone. There was a time, if you guys watch the game, the center or Jared Goff goes up to the center,
Oh, yeah, I saw this.
tries to change the play,
Calls an audible, yeah.
and the guy hikes it to him, hits his chest. The Bears guy catches it,
Ridiculous.
and everyone in the backfield and the whole Lions team were just staring at him like,
Like, what the hell happened?
what just happened?
Yeah, crazy stuff. It's just, and the other thing I want to talk about is the Lions are severely injured.
They are.
on all sides of the ball.
Yes.
Like, they look terrible right now in terms of like talent that they're putting on the field because all of their talent is hurt. Frank Ragnow, as of 2 days ago, is going to be out. He's going to miss some time, probably 3 to 4 weeks. That's not good. He's a Pro Bowl center. I want to say Taylor Decker's hurt right now. He's on IR. You lost Okuda. I don't know if Ifeatu Melifonwu is back, but that's another corner that was down. He went down against the Packers. Like, that's tough. You're playing without some of your best players. Tyrell Williams might still not be back yet. He might still be going through some kind of concussion protocol.
Right.
That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
That's really hard to bounce back from, especially if you're a rebuilding young team.
And I do believe, I could be wrong, but I think this is the head coach the Lions need. For having a young team,
Are you saying Dan Campbell is the right coach for
I
them?
think he's the right guy.
Listen,
Players respect him. That's like one of the number one things that you look for in a coach is that players that actually want to go to Detroit and play for the head coach.
so I think Dan Campbell is what we call a player's coach. I think I've said that before.
Yes.
People like him. He's a likable guy. Players, and he's pretty straightforward. The "I'm an asshole" comment when he got rid of their long snapper. Like, yeah, that's probably how a lot of people feel, but the truth is you're just being honest. Like, yes, don't cut a guy on his birthday. That's just terrible. Like,
Yeah.
Andy Dalton had that happen last year.
Yeah.
And I was like, come on, guys. But, like, I don't know. I like to believe that Dan Campbell's the right coach for them. I'm not a Lions fan by any stretch of the imagination, but, I think that I talked to Cullen about this.
Right.
And, I said, I've seen a lot of bad Lions rosters over the years where I did not see them improving. I think this team can improve.
Absolutely. So this game shocked both of us. We literally talked about it on Sunday. We were like, dude, like, what is going on? That's Carolina and Dallas.
I mean, Carolina didn't play as bad as people are saying they did, but they didn't play good either.
They didn't play good, and it doesn't help because they're 3-0 for some pretty, I wouldn't say bad teams, but let's say mediocre teams.
Saints, Jets, and
The Jags?
Texans.
Texans.
So I would say pretty bad teams, to be honest.
Saints are mediocre.
Saints are the team that right now that's losing games they should win and winning games they should lose.
Fair point. So where do we start? Sam Darnold? I mean,
what more do you want to talk about with him? Like, I think he's playing pretty well. But against Dallas, he played probably his worst game as a Panther. Definitely not as a pro.
Dallas is a top 10 team.
They might be a top 5 defense right now overall. Like,
was that Trayvon Diggs? What's his name?
They are giving up a lot of points, but they're making plays when they have to make plays. So, Trayvon Diggs. He has, I think, 5 interceptions in 4 games.
Yes.
So he's on pace for 21 interceptions.
Yeah. I mean, what was it, Monday or Thursday night versus the Eagles? I can't remember what game it was, but...
Yeah, it would have been Thursday night.
He made
Monday Night Football with the Eagles.
Who's the Eagles' new wide receiver?
Rager or Smith?
Smith. He made Smith look like a freaking little...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Darnold went 26 of 39 for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Not a good game.
Not exactly, no.
Not the worst game we've ever seen Sam Darnold play. He's not seeing ghosts yet. So
that's a good point.
I mean, look, he played a team that's probably one of the top 10 defenses in the NFL right now, and he didn't play that well, but he didn't play so bad that they couldn't have won that game.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think the Panthers have some problems that they're working through, but if we're going to talk about the Panthers, we kind of need to talk about Stephon Gilmore.
Yeah, I mean,
what more is there to say other than the fact that you just got the 2019 defensive MVP or defensive player of the year?
Yeah.
Multiple all-time All-Pro, Pro Bowler for a 6th round pick. Now you take on $16 million in a cap hit, but you have that cap space. So, and they brought in, I think, C.J. Henderson a week ago from the Jaguars in the Dan Arnold trade. They're adding depth to that secondary and some really good players. So I would look for the Carolina defense to actually get better instead of worse. So,
that's a fair point. Dallas, we kind of already covered them.
I mean, I don't
the
think
Washington game. I mean, they're all around. They're doing pretty solid.
Dak
lately.
has been nothing if not efficient this year. 14 for 22, 188 yards.
I just want to point
touchdowns.
out everyone that week 1, everyone was trashing on Zeke, and he's absolutely went off since then. So
what did he have? 7 yards a carry or something stupid like that? He had 20 carries for 140 yards.
Something ridiculous.
And then a touchdown, of course. Tony Pollard still doesn't look bad, though. He's averaging almost 7 yards a carry, too. Actually, I'll look this up real quick. So, Pollard, 10 attempts for 67 yards. That's not bad.
No.
That's all you want your backup to do is average a lot of yards a carry and hopefully get your first downs, and he does more than that. Dak also has some wheels as of late. He had 4 for 35. So,
which is good to actually see him running around.
Yeah, I mean,
because the first game he was very scared to run. Well, you could tell he was diving a lot.
I mean, there's a lot to be said about how that injury must have affected him mentally.
Yeah,
because you love the game. Obviously, he does. He's crying during the national anthem at their first home game back. It's a whole storyline for Dak right now, and he's playing really well. So of course the coverage is on him. He plays for the Cowboys, so of course there's coverage. But Dak Prescott looks good, and I'm not gonna shit on him, to be honest. I think there's no point in doing that because I've been kind of a hater for a while.
I thought he was gonna almost have an MVP season before the season started. Obviously not Matt Stafford.
I mean, Stafford, we'll get to that, but...
So the next game we got is Indianapolis versus Miami.
Indy needed this game desperately.
Well, I'll tell you why they won. Because they actually gave the ball to Jonathan Taylor. His
100%.
100-yard game of the season because they actually gave him the ball. What do you have, like a touchdown? And then Mo Alley-Cox got involved, which is something we also needed. He had 2 touchdowns from Carson Wentz.
Yes.
So
Wentz didn't play terrible.
No. There's not much you can really ask of him, like more, you know?
I mean, the dude's got 2 sprained ankles still, so his mobility is down. So you have to stand in the pocket, make plays. He was 24 of 32, 228 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a solid game.
Yeah. There was rumors before the week that Maryland Mack was going to get traded, or he was on the trade block. And then the game happened, and Hines fumbled it, and he did not touch the ball after that. And they gave the ball to Maryland Mack a little more.
10 yards or 10 carries in that game, but he only averaged 2.2 yards a carry. He had 22 yards. So
right.
Not the best showing by Mack, but also...
That's also kind of like the first game he actually touched the ball, though, you know?
Yeah, I mean...
Since last year.
And people forget he was out most of last year with that injury. So, I mean, yeah, he's definitely got some work to do to get back into the swing of things. But I do think that there's still a little bit of tension between him and the team, so we might see him still get moved, but we'll see.
On a little side note, because this podcast will probably be posted on Thursday night, I'm starting Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Van Jefferson. If you don't know who those players are, they're all on the Rams. So
I think it's kind of a bold decision, but I'm not mad at it. I think Van Jefferson has been on third downs. Look where Stafford looks down the field. Van Jefferson or Kupp.
Yeah.
He's not looking at Woods a lot. Like, I mean, Robert Woods is an all-time player. Don't get me wrong, but I just think that, like, maybe not all-time, but you get what I'm saying.
I get what you mean.
He's good. He's a very good player. And it seems to me like Stafford must have a very good relationship with Van Jefferson because he seems to look his way quite a bit. So... what's your next game, or what's the next game?
Well, I think we have to hold back on the next game.
Okay.
So, here's the thing, Dawson. We trashed Tua before the season.
Pretty badly, pretty harshly.
Brissett is now 0-3 as the Dolphins starter. I'm not going to say Tua's 1-0. I'm not going to say that.
Well, so, to be fair, Brissett did take over in a losing effort against the Raiders.
Okay, we can say 0-2. He still lost 2.
Yes. Yeah, I got you.
Tua's supposed to come back week 6. Okay.
This is week 5, so we're going into week 5. So that's 2 weeks. Or maybe 8
They
weeks.
play, I believe, Jacksonville.
Okay, if Tua can't get it done against Jacksonville, then that's a problem.
So yes. One thing I also want to mention is that offensive coordinator, I'm not so confident on him right now if I'm a Dolphins fan.
Yeah, they have not given... You're talking about how they're not giving the ball to Myles Gaskin.
They're not spreading the ball out enough. Parker had one of his best games of the season, and it's, week 4? You know? Like, Myles Gaskin touched the ball twice.
And he's supposed to be the starting running back.
He is. He's supposed to be the starting running back. He's supposed to be getting...
And it's not like the Colts destroyed them in the first half where they were down to the point that they had to pass the ball a bunch.
They gave the ball to Malcolm Brown more than Myles Gaskin.
The final score was 17-27 Colts. Like, they could
You're still in the game.
Yeah. So why are you throwing the ball so damn much, and why are you giving it to a guy? I mean, listen, coaches will, in a situation like that, if Malcolm Brown looks better during practice, you kind of got to give him the ball. Myles Gaskin, I wasn't that high on him going into the season, but he had a couple good games.
Yeah.
And so, like, obviously there was some talent there, and maybe he's nursing an injury that's not been announced. I'm not sure, but it just seems like the Dolphins don't really have an identity right now.
Right.
And especially offensively. Their defense doesn't look that bad, but
it's not terrible.
But, I mean, the Dolphins have a lot to figure out. And you kind of you see them lose Kyle Van Noy, or cut him, really. And I think he was kind of the centerpiece of that defense at linebacker. And they brought in some talent here and there, but, like...
when you look at the depth chart or the roster, you know?
Sure.
And you say, okay, Brissett's your quarterback.
Right.
Myles Gaskin's your running back.
Okay.
You have Devontae Parker, and you have Jalen Waddle. And Gesicki.
Yeah, Mike Gesicki.
That on paper does not look terrible.
No, and honestly, people are going to give Jacoby Brissett hell because whatever, he's 0-2, 3 or 0-3.
Right.
But honestly, they kind of, in my opinion, look almost better with Brissett at QB. And maybe that's not a fair assessment, but like Brissett doesn't look terrible. I liked him when he was with the Colts. I liked him when he played for the Pats.
I liked him when he played for the Colts. I wish he was still our backup.
Yeah, he's probably going to be a career journeyman backup. I don't think he'll be anything more than that. But I mean, right now, he's playing okay. He's not playing so bad that they just like is like, wow, Jacoby's losing us football games. I don't think that's the problem. I think it's just an indictment on the coaching staff right now.
So the next game, Cleveland versus Minnesota. Cleveland won that game. And there's something I want to tell you.
What do you got?
I told you before the season started, because you were very high on the Browns,
I was.
rightfully so. I told you, I said, there's one thing that the Browns are going to have to worry about.
And it was Baker Mayfield.
And it's Baker Mayfield. And to me, that is still true.
I honestly agree. Baker has played his second worst season in the NFL right now, if you ask me. His rookie season was his second best. Last year was his best. His sophomore season, he was terrible. And this year, he has looked a little bit better than his sophomore season. He's thrown fewer interceptions. That's all. The only thing that he's done better, in my opinion. I just think that Baker is struggling because, let's be honest, I think that he relies on his receivers a lot, and OBJ is still kind of leaning into getting back into it a little bit.
Jarvis Landry's
out. I don't know that he trusts Donovan Peoples-Jones or the other receivers that have there quite as much. So I don't know. I want to say that Baker will turn it around this season, and he's lucky that they have such a good defense because they have been very good. But we'll see what happens. The Browns are not the old Browns, as like Juju Smith-Schuster last year in the playoffs. The Browns is the Browns. The Browns is not the Browns anymore.
They are not the Browns.
They're still a very good football team. And people want to talk about, they played the Vikings, who were at that point 1-2. Yeah, they did, but the Vikings have been hanging with really good football teams.
And they've been playing good. They're off. They have weapons.
I'm a Packer fan, and if anybody in that division has a shot at the NFC North, it's clearly the Vikings or the Packers.
Yes.
I'm not worried about the Lions. I'm definitely not worried about the Bears.
No.
I still think the Lions are a better football team than the Bears, but the Vikings look good. And I think that an only 7-point performance by them is pretty indicative of how good that Browns defense actually is.
Yeah, I can agree. I mean, I don't think there's really anything else to really say about that game. Really, I mean,
Not
Nick
really.
Chubb's kind of balling out, but I think that's because Baker Mayfield.
I would like to just say one thing, and it's that Kirk has definitely come back down to earth this week. He was 20 of 38, so almost 50% on passing, 203 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So Kirk MVP season is kind of slowed down a little bit, but I mean, still, whatever. It was a good game if you like low-scoring defensive games.
So you said this team, the next games we're going to talk about the Giants and Saints. You said the Saints are losing games they should win. Saints were favored in this game.
Yes.
And is Saquon Barkley back?
Saquon might
Is he
be
back?
He might be back.
Is Saquon back? Like,
here's my thing. I've never thought Saquon was a bad player. When
Me
he was
neither.
drafted, I was like, yeah, Giants got the guy. They got the guy they needed to
Absolutely.
get.
the quads.
But the problem with Saquon is his health. He's
Yes.
never been healthy. It's never been an issue of talent or skill or ability. It's always been, okay, how many games are we going to have this guy on the field for? And I think that, like, when you say, is Saquon back? He never left. Well, he did. He was just absent.
Yes.
His skill was always there. Just,
Absolutely.
it's like almost like Christian McCaffrey being just too explosive for his own body. You know what I mean? Like they're just physically so dominant that their body can't handle it. It's almost like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, the Giants beat the Saints, and it's another thing where I'm like, the Saints should have won that game.
Yeah.
They didn't have Slayton and they didn't have Shepard, and they still beat the Saints. Why are the Saints losing games they should win, and why are they winning games they shouldn't? I just don't get it. It's weird. They're 2-2, but I mean, good God. And again, we kind of did this for a couple weeks where we were like, it's still week 1, it's still week 2. We're only under a quarter of the way through the season. So teams are going to lose, teams are going to win. It's going to happen.
One thing I think
A lot
needs
of
to be
teams-
mentioned about the NFC is if you don't win your division, besides the NFC West, your chances of making the playoffs are very slim.
Yes, absolutely.
3 out of 4 of those teams, most likely. I'm not going to discount the 49ers. But right now, 3 of them are in the playoffs.
Oh, they're definitely in the hunt for it.
Seattle, Rams, obviously, and then undefeated Cardinals. You know, like your
we're gonna
chance
talk
if
about
you
that,
don't
believe
win
me.
your division, which we will talk about the Bucks. I'm not hitting on the Bucks, just to point that out.
We'll
but
get there.
I'm just saying, like, the Saints need to win these games. Like, these close games, they are predicted to win if they are a playoff team. I think that's pretty much
All there is to say about that.
I mean, we can go on about Daniel Jones. I'm not gonna
Great game by him. I will say that. He played probably his best football game maybe ever.
He's
So,
killing it in fantasy.
Yeah, if you want a good fantasy option, whatever. But moving forward,
So this game shocked everybody except for me and Dawson. So it was the Jets and Titans. We both think the Titans defense is absolutely garbage. And let me tell you, Zach Wilson had his first and best game versus the Titans, and I love to see that.
well, you're a Colts fan, so naturally
I am.
watching the Titans lose to a real bad team is
I love it.
really, really great.
I
for
love
you.
it.
At least the Colts lost to the Seahawks, the Rams, and the Ravens.
Titans.
Titans. Okay. Well, whoops.
We'll talk about that.
Anyway, moving forward. Yeah, because you guys play the Ravens this week, right?
The Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
We're going to get freaking embarrassed. But
I don't think you're going to get as embarrassed as you think. But moving forward. Oh gosh, what game were we talking about?
Jets, Titans.
Jets, Titans, right. Okay, so can we just talk about how every time that Taylor Lewan plays like crap, he's suddenly injured? I'm just pointing that out. He played terrible week 1. He's like, hobbles
My
off.
back hurts.
Damn, man, my back, my knee. I'm not shitting on
Athletic
Taylor
trainer's
Lewan.
like, dude,
He's like, dude,
You're fine.
You're fine. What's wrong with you? He's like, I don't know. Chandler Jones. But like, I have Chandler Jones disorder. But so he's on the injury report again. That was why I brought that up.
dear
But
God.
the Jets pass rush ate Tannehill alive. Like, when has anybody ever like been like, oh yeah, you know the Jets pass rush? It's elite. It's not. It's not. That Titans O-line played terrible, and their defense played worse. And that is
Yes.
all I have to say about
I
that.
will say, I'm just saying,
Credit where it's due.
the Jets did get Crowder back,
Yep,
and Crowder did play good.
he did.
So
How-
now, not only do they have Crowder, now they have Davis. I mean, they had Davis.
Corey Davis, former
Corey Davis,
Titan.
Yes. Love to see that. So now they have 2 wide receivers that are pretty good. You know, before it was just like Zach Wilson was trying to huck the ball to Corey Davis because he doesn't really trust anybody yet. But now he obviously likes Crowder, which he picked him up.
Yep. They also have Elijah Moore, and they have Denzel Mims. So those are pretty young receivers, but they're as 3rd, 4th, 5th options. They're not bad, and so I think that the Jets are still like way younger than anybody realizes. Like, a lot of people will look at NFL rosters and be like, well, they're professionals. Newsflash: this is like a bunch of college players still.
Yes.
So, like, I don't want to crap on the Jets too much, but at the same time, they're still a pretty bad football team, and that's a game.
And Michael
Titans
Carter is, I think, officially
number 1.
number 1 for now.
He's
For now.
still not really. It's still a running back by committee backfield. so.
Yes, but I think that's just because of their offensive line. But we're just gonna move on from that game.
Yeah, without Mekhi back then, they were a little lost. But the Titans looked real bad last week. I expect them to bounce back pretty heavily against the Jags.
So we got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Eagles.
Kansas City needed this.
I will say Kansas City did need this, but their defense does not look good.
It looks bad. Real bad.
You let the Eagles score 32 points on you, but yes, you scored 42 points because you're the Chiefs. I get it.
'Cause you're the
I don't know if that was the
Chiefs,
actual
yeah.
exact score. But
I think something like that. Now, Tyreek Hill absolutely went off. What was it, 180 receiving yards?
yeah, he had
and
like
3
47
touchdowns.
points in fantasy or something.
Some stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Kelsey still doesn't look that great this year.
He does not.
So I think that's a problem. But they get Josh Gordon this week, so we'll see what that.
If Josh Gordon's difference maker, I don't know, but they
Here's-
need somebody to fill the Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, well, I think that Sammy Watkins had a bigger role than we all really thought he did, because McCall Hardman has not filled the number 2 role
No.
well at all in Kansas City.
Because he's pretty much like an identical to Tyreek Hill, and you don't need another Tyreek Hill.
He's a special teams guy. He's a Cordero Patterson. That's how I would describe McCole Hardman.
I think McCole Hardman's pretty much like a 1 for 75 and a touchdown.
Kind of. He's boom or bust every week. But I would just like to say their defense looks bad, but their O-line still does not look very good.
Yeah, I agree.
They couldn't cover anything last week. Jalen Hurts did what he really wanted to. Their defense just couldn't stop the Chiefs. That's really what it comes down to. And now they get a Bills team that is looking very good this week.
They are hot right now.
I mean, look, put it this way: the Bills have like a touchdown or a points allowed differential of like 140 to like 26 in like the last 3 or 4 games.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing for me for the Eagles, they're not using Miles Sanders. Does their OC not like him? Does their coach not like him? I mean, they drafted Gainwell, I believe that's his name.
The problem is that they're really not using either of them.
I can agree with that.
Like, Gainwell's getting catches and whatever and rushes, but neither of them have really exploded for anything this year, and it's kind of been a problem for the Eagles' offense. And it puts a lot of pressure when you can't convert third downs, which they have not been able to do.
Well, it was like when they played the Cowboys last week. Miles Sanders had like 1 rush, and then he went for like 26 yards, and then didn't touch the ball.
For like the next 2 quarters.
I think 26 yards is a little stretch, but still, he had like a pretty good gain, and then he just didn't give him the ball.
Yeah, I think it was actually a catch out of the backfield where he went for like 21 yards or something.
Maybe it was that, because I think his rushing was like 2 for 5.
He didn't play very well on the ground, but like
played very well on the ground. They rushed it 2 times.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is like they didn't give him the ball. So like, how do you? I phrase that weird, but how do you justify that? Like, and he didn't, like, when he got the ball, he got stuffed a couple times. I think he had like 9 carries, but it wasn't like terrible. We're not talking about the Dallas and Philly game. The point is Philly has a lot to work on, and the Chiefs, they honestly, if you want my opinion, they probably could have beat the Chiefs if their defense was just a little better.
I think that the system that the Eagles want and the quarterback they have do not go together. Jalen Hurts is not going to win you football games by throwing the ball down the field.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't think Nick Sirianni's that great of a head coach.
That's fair.
I mean, it's his first year, and people said the same thing about Zach Taylor with the Bengals, and now they're 3-1 and they're leading their division. Well, they're tied, but like,
right.
I think they could beat the Ravens. I think the Bengals could beat the Ravens. So, do you look at Sirianni and say, well, he's terrible? Well, no, you can't really do that. It's his first year, and it's a pretty not well put together team.
Young team, yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is there. Moving on.
1 versus 2. Arizona Rams. Shock. I was shocked. I don't know about you.
I wouldn't say I was shocked. I would say that I thought the Rams were going to win that game, and it is an upset in my opinion. But, I mean, is it any stretch to imagine that the Cardinals could be the best team in the NFL right now? Because I don't think it's even close. If you beat the Rams that bad, the Rams beat the crap out of the Buccaneers. I mean, I hate doing that, but like, the Cardinals look really good, man.
Well, I think that
like to make Stafford uncomfortable, to go up against that defense and make them look foolish like that.
I think that coming into the season, it was their defense because they added J.J. Watt, so that was their main. That was like everyone's main like thing was their defense is going to be really good. Mm-hmm. People forgot who Kyler Murray has to throw to. AJ Green, Hopkins, Rondale Christian Moore. Kirk, Rondale Moore.
Max Williams
is pretty balling out.
Yeah.
And then I think it's mainly just their system is just working. You have Chase Edmonds who's like he's doing pretty good, right?
Yeah,
and then you go to the goal line and it's like just give it to James Conner.
Well, I think the problem with James Conner when he was with the Steelers was they were trying to make him a 3-down back.
Yeah, they're trying to make him the workhorse, and I don't think that works for him.
I don't think that he's not in shape to do that, but he's been doing really well in goal line situations. I mean, I think he had like 12 carries for 65 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
That's all you need out of him. He doesn't need to have 24 carries a game.
No.
So
I think one thing for the Rams, and I think this is kind of why they got exposed. I'm not discrediting the Cardinals, and I'm not sure who their best cornerback is. Cooper Kupp he had targets, but I don't know if he wasn't catching them.
I would say that Stafford probably played his worst game with the Rams easily. I mean, he overthrew a lot of passes, and he looked really uncomfortable in the pocket. So, I don't know. He had a couple rushing plays because they couldn't get it going on the ground either. Henderson didn't really do much. Michelle didn't really do much. I mean, it's just not great for the Rams right now after that loss, but I think they'll bounce back.
I absolutely think they'll bounce back. So we got the Seattle San Francisco. That was a pretty good division game.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
I think the only thing we're really talking about is the Trey Lance is starting, I believe now, because Garoppolo was hurt. That game to me was pretty boring. I think that Seattle's offense is obviously pretty good. Chris Carson is actually out this week as well.
Yeah, so that's news as of like an hour and a half ago. He has a neck injury that's keeping him out of the game against the Rams tonight.
Yes.
So, which you probably won't see this till tomorrow, but ultimately that's just news right now.
Yeah. Like I said, there's not a whole lot to talk about. I mean, both these teams are pretty good, but I think it could have went either way. We got Baltimore and Denver.
I do actually have one thing to say. Of all the rookie performances, Trey Lance in relief for Garoppolo played better than any rookie in any game this year.
What was the stats?
Quarterback-wise. I want to say he had 2 through the air, 2 touchdowns. I'll look it up real quick. But, I mean, he looked damn good for being a relief player. Because we talked about how Eason and, Brissett or, like, other players in relief struggle. Why? What's up? What's wrong?
It didn't save when I picked Parker to put on the bench for Jefferson.
No.
And the game just started.
Well, I mean, you're running Devontae Parker, I guess. So it doesn't actually have Trey Lance's stats on here. That's odd. But I think I want to say he had like a couple rushes for like 45 plus yards. He looked good. He looked very dual threat. He looked really well rounded, and I don't think he threw any interceptions. So I like Trey Lance, and I honestly think he was probably the second most pro-ready quarterback coming out of this draft. He just didn't get that kind of exposure because he played for NDSU, which is, I think, an FBS school. So it's hard to say that he was the most pro-ready because he didn't really play the level of competition. I know that was a concern for him, but I liked Trey Lance a lot. I would say the first was Mac Jones, which we'll get to. But ultimately, I think Trey Lance looked really good in relief for Garoppolo. That's all I really wanted to say.
So, what is the next game, Dawson?
I don't know, because, see, it's all out of order on my phone, so you got to... I'm trying to pull it up, but...
How about Baltimore and Denver?
That's actually the one I just found.
I said it earlier, but...
So, the storyline here is it's not complicated. Denver comes in 3-0, but the level of competition they played is pretty bad, so then
they
Teddy
played their
Bridgewater
first
gets hurt.
team, like good team, and...
Well, Teddy Bridgewater gets hurt in the first half. Drew Lock comes in, plays absolutely terrible. It's pretty easy for that game to get away from them and the Ravens easily.
That's a pretty fair point. I don't really think there's anything else to talk about other than the fact that the Ravens still have no running game.
Yeah. If you want a rundown of the game, we could talk about it. But ultimately, I think it's just that the Broncos didn't have Bridgewater. Bridgewater was obviously the better quarterback of the two. And... there's a reason he's been the starter this year.
Yes,
and
he's been doing pretty good.
That game could have been closer if he played, but Drew Lock overthrew a lot of passes. He threw some interceptions. It just wasn't a good game.
Yeah, we're probably just going to move on from that one.
Yeah, not much to say.
Next one, there's a lot of talk about for one team and not a lot to talk about for the other team, but that's Pittsburgh and Green Bay.
Yeah.
Green Bay won. Steelers have a lot to figure out.
So I'm a Packer fan, so I just want to talk about this. The Packers played pretty bad, actually. I don't know that the numbers may not suggest that, but if you watch the game, there was some overthrown passes by Rodgers. There was nowhere near as many as Ben Roethlisberger, but there was just some mistakes that were made along the way that could have been avoided, and that game could have really gotten away from the Steelers way more than it did, and they still lost by 10 points. But to your point, the Steelers just look bad.
I mean
they have so many
Big Ben
things
is
to fix.
doing terrible.
honestly, in that game, if I'm down by 10 points and Ben keeps throwing air like balloons, I'm giving Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins a shot.
They just announced that they said they're not going to bench Big Ben no matter how he plays.
That's a stupid move. I'm sorry. If you're a Steelers fan and you love Ben, I understand. I get it. He's been your quarterback for the better part of 2 decades.
It's time.
But it's time. He doesn't look the same. He doesn't move the same. He doesn't read defenses the same. Things have changed and he's stayed the same. That's the problem. He misses everybody now. He's missing everybody right now. And I'm not going to blame it on anything that happened in the offseason or him losing weight. I think he's just old and tired. I think that's I think that's about all there is to say about it.
And like we said last week, for the Steelers, this is the absolute worst year to have your worst year.
Yeah, because that division
is good now.
The rest of the teams in that division are very freaking good. Very good.
Yeah, like I said, I think the biggest takeaway from that game is Big Ben. Like, is it good for him to ride him out? I don't think so.
I'm not sure. But that's about all there is to say about the game. Was Joe Hayden offsides? What's your thoughts? I do want to get your brain on this because we haven't actually talked about this, but
I think so.
It's close.
I'm
a Packers fan. We've talked about this.
I think he was lined up offsides, but they won't show the side view. They're only showing the view of him not. He pretty much moved just like a millisecond before the ball.
Well, see, you watch the replay. He's clearly moving before the ball is snapped. I don't think anybody can argue with you on that. If you watched it, you've seen it, you know that. But does he cross the plane? I don't think so. Here's the thing. As a referee, you're going to see a guy moving. And if you're watching from that side, which we didn't see what that looked like.
Yeah, we didn't see that camera angle.
If you're watching from there, you're going to trust. I got to trust the ref's gut, but it does kind of feel. It makes you have that pit in your stomach like, God, did we really get away with one there or what? I'm not sure.
Right. So the next game is New England and Tampa Bay. That was actually a very, 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 very boring.
Snooze fest.
Boring game to watch. Tom Brady makes his return to the Patriot in Gillette Stadium.
Can I make a bold statement?
What's your bold statement?
He played about as good as Big Ben did.
So we have the Chargers and Vegas game.
No, but let's seriously talk about it. He's 22 for 43. A little under 50% or over 50% pass rating, 269 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. That's not good.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. How's the weather?
Are we really doing this?
How was the weather?
All right. The weather wasn't great, but I want to talk about what the announcers said before the game.
What'd they say?
Brady's played in this weather before, and in Foxborough, he should do fine here. And then in the game, they're going, well, it's raining, so Brady's missing some of his receivers. Okay, well then why didn't Mac Jones miss his receivers like that? Why? Because the passes were shorter? Oh, that's what Brady did in New England. Kind of funny how the system benefited the quarterback in that game. Oh my God! Coincidence. Anyway, moving on. I do want to talk about how well Mac Jones did play, actually.
He did play really good.
People are criticizing the checkdowns and the short slants and things like that. But it's efficiency. He played well. He made good throws, and he did hit receivers downfield when he had to. Was it a perfect game? I wouldn't say it was a good game necessarily. I think he had a pretty mediocre performance in terms of, like, if you look at other quarterbacks in the league, sure. But, look. People were hyping this game up. The media was hyping this game up. And the fact that they even had a shot towards the end of the game to win it is kind of indicative of... I don't know if it's indicative of the Buccaneers or just how well prepared the Patriots were. But either way, I think it was a pretty boring game to watch, and it was a little bit of a disappointment to me anyway. Do you have any thoughts on the game?
No, but Van Jefferson just caught one pass for 18 yards in the first quarter in the first drive, and he's on my bench because apparently he did save.
I mean, that's only 2.8 yards. It could get worse, but I mean, let's hold out hope for you, all right?
Chargers, Raiders.
So this was our Monday night game, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to say that he is because there is still a lot of players in the hunt, but Justin Herbert might be. I am trying to
say it.
I'm trying, asshole.
I'm waiting.
Justin Herbert might be in the MVP conversation.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, just a
Yeah?
little bit. Just a little bit.
Oh, I thought he was trash.
All right, listen.
Yeah? Let's hear it.
Everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah?
I mean, look, like he looks good.
Yeah?
And the Chargers look good. And let's just not to, get ahead of myself, but Eckler played really well for the first time this year.
Yeah?
Why are you hating on me right now?
Come on, let's hear it.
That's all I gotta say.
That's
You
it?
do your piece.
That's it?
You're making me feel bad.
That's it?
You're making me feel bad.
I told you that the Chiefs weren't going to win the division.
I still stand by the fact that the Chiefs might win that division.
I disagree.
But we will see what happens down the road. The season is still young.
Yeah, you said the Broncos are going to win the division.
I did not.
You did.
If I did, somebody clip it and send it to me.
You were
Send
like...
it to Crown Sports Crown
no,
underscore
no.
Sports.
No.
You interrupted me.
You said that the Broncos, if anyone in that division were going to win the division besides the Chiefs, that the Broncos would win.
I think I said that as a bold prediction.
You and your bold prediction, just like the Texans. Oh, my God.
Are you still mad about that? You got to stop making this podcast
That was
toxic.
a terrible call on your part.
Sometimes you got to go with your gut.
And then you're like, oh, no, I just did it for the pick'em.
Hey.
So, like,
Hey.
whoever wins, you just...
Sometimes you got to go with your gut. And that day I had a stomach ache, all right? That's all I got to say about it.
Yeah. All right, Dawson. Maybe you can redeem yourself and tell me your power rankings.
Okay, so we're going to go over my power rankings now.
Yeah,
Oh, boy. All
you
right.
probably got the Texans at 1.
At number 1, I have the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a joke. I do not have the Kansas City Chiefs at 1, but I thought you almost had you. Okay, so we're going to do this a little different this week because we think that there's a better way to do this. So I'm going to go over my top 10, and then he's going to go over his top 10 and kind of pick apart mine, and we'll get into that. So at number 10, I do actually have the Kansas City Chiefs at 10. I think the Chiefs are still worth a top 10 spot. They won this week. They're 2-2. They could be worse, and they'll bounce back, I think. Moving down the list, I have the Ravens bumped to number 9. I finally put them in my top 10 because they are 3-1, and they have beat a team that I thought was pretty good. Now, granted, without their starting quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater being
Wait, who the Ravens beat?
The Broncos. And I think their defense is good. Chiefs 10, Ravens 9.
Thank you.
And then I have the Raiders at 8. The Raiders did lose this week, but they are very good still. They are 3-1, and I think the Chargers are actually very good, and I was wrong about them. So there you go. You got that admission. Number 7, I have the Chargers. They were my 9 team last week. They've moved up 2 spots for me. I don't think, we talked about the game, so I don't think we have to get into it too much, but I think the Chargers could very well push their way into the top 5 if they keep playing like that. At number 6, I bumped the Buccaneers down. They did win this week, if I'm correct. 17-19. But they played probably one of their worst games ever with with Tom at the helm. So I bumped them down from, I believe I had them at 4 or 5. At number 5, I have Dallas. I really didn't want to put them here because I don't like the Cowboys, but, I mean, look, you can't argue with them right now. And until they lose to a bad team, they'll be a top 5 team in my power rankings. So at 4, and this one is going to be a bit of a homer thing. I know people aren't going to like this because I moved them up, even though they played poorly this week. I have the Packers, which, if you're against me on that, let me just tell you, NFL Network has them at number 3, so don't get mad at me. The Packers still have a lot of improving to do. We just lost Jair Alexander, which is really scary going into a game against Cincinnati where they're going to throw the ball probably a lot, especially with Mixon being out this week. So I would assume that Green Bay actually could be in for a trap game against Cincinnati. I'm not going to say that's going to happen, but it's possible. But at right now, they're my 4 team. At number 3, I hate doing this because I really like them still, but I had to move the Rams down. I had to. They lost the Cards. So, what do you do? You know, you could put them at 2, but they got beat pretty handedly, I'd say. So I'll keep them at 3. At 2, we've got Buffalo, who has been playing lights out against some bad teams, albeit, but very good. Shutting any team out in the NFL is an accomplishment. It doesn't matter how bad they are. Shutting 2 out of 4 weeks is very impressive. So Buffalo at number 2. And, of course, number 1 is the Arizona Cardinals. So, I mean, and we don't have to explain that because I think that everybody knows the Cardinals.
Yeah, they're the only undefeated team.
They're the only undefeated team, and they beat the actual shit out of the Rams. So there's nothing to be said there. If the Rams are the 3rd team and they just got beat the crap out of, I mean, like, Arizona's number 1. What do you got?
So at number 10, I also have the Chiefs.
That's cool. I actually am happy that you kind of agree with me on something.
So I think that it's pretty. I mean, I'm not saying they're equal, but the Bengals are 3-1, and the Chiefs are 2-2. But I think if head to head, the Chiefs would win. So I have like the Bengals at 11, pretty much. It was a tough call.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. There's a couple, like I've said this before on the show, but there's a couple teams you could put at 11, 12 that could be a top 10 team, and it's hard to make that call. But I think that's fair.
Number 9, I have the Browns. I think that's a pretty fair assessment because I think their defense is still good, but I still have them low because Baker Mayfield is trash.
So here's my problem. I want to put the Browns in the top 10, but there's only 10 spots. And I don't think that they would beat any of these teams right now if they played with the way Baker's been playing. If Baker were playing better, I would bump the Ravens out, and I'd still probably keep the Chiefs in, even though they're my 10 team, because they're the damn Chiefs, and you have a hard time taking them out of the top 10.
Right. So my number 8 team, I have the Ravens.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, I think that based on just their wins, you know, they beat the Broncos, they beat the Chiefs. You know, I think both of those
are good wins.
Those are good wins.
Beating the Lions the way they did, questionable though. I mean, we'll see what happens down the road with Detroit, but yeah, I got you. That's a good spot for them.
Number 6, I have the Bucks, so I moved them down.
I thought you said number 8 was the Raiders or Ravens.
Oh shit! Sorry,
so you skipped 7.
The 7 is the Cowboys.
Okay, yeah. So you have them lower than me, which is actually interesting. I thought you'd have them in the top 4.
Right, I would have them higher, but they did lose week 1 to the Bucks.
True.
Which is, I mean, it's the Bucks.
Yeah, the Buccaneers, and the Bucks were healthy then though, so that's kind of like you gotta account for that.
Right. At number 6, I have the Bucks.
Okay, yeah. So we have the Bucks at the same spot, which is fun.
So 5, I have the Rams.
Right on.
I dropped them from my number 1 to 5. I thought that was pretty fair. They did lose to the Cardinals, which I know are a top team, but
they lost pretty bad.
They lost. Yeah, if it was a close game, they'd probably still be at 3. That was still dropping down. Number 5, I bumped them up just because they beat the Raiders. So I have the Chargers at 5.
Fair enough.
I think that I wouldn't say the Raiders were in my top 5 last week. But yeah, I think the Chargers are pretty good. Herbert's killing it right now.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, like I
said,
said,
their defense is not bad.
You can't talk MVP conversation without Justin Herbert in it right now. Yeah. Just being honest. So
Packers I have at 4.
Okay, so we had those at the same spot too.
So yeah.
Ugly win, but it's a win, and they're still a pretty good team. So
yeah. So what am I at, number 3?
Yeah, you're on your 3. So I'm curious to see who you have here. Did you not put a number 3 on your list, or did you goof up?
Yeah, I think I counted it wrong.
Oh, God. Logan's top 9.
So I had the Chiefs at
10.
Then I had the...
I don't know. I don't remember. I number all mine, man.
I didn't number mine.
I number mine for a reason. But I know your number 1 is Arizona.
Yeah.
So
let me talk about my number 2.
Okay.
Which is the Bills.
Okay, so you have the Bills at 2 as well.
Yes.
So we have a very similar power rankings this week.
You guys might chirp me for this. Last week, they were out of my top 10.
Wait, you didn't have the Bills in your top 10?
No.
Wow. I didn't remember that.
So the thing is that there was teams that were 3-0. They were 2-1. Now seeing that 2 out of the 4 games, they've outscored their opponent like 70-0. I think they're legit. I was a little skeptical.
So
not gonna lie,
they did get off to a slow start. The loss to the Steelers doesn't look good on their record. Still, it's kind of like a big blemish for them. I think for a lot of people. But look,
I have the Rams at 3. I'm an idiot.
I figured you had the Rams somewhere in there, 4 or 3. So I was like, I don't know what he's got going on. The Rams at 3 makes sense. They lost. They got to move down. It doesn't. We have a very, very similar power ranking this week, though. I think the only difference is that I had a different team in there because you had the Browns. So I like that we had similar thoughts for a change instead of some very different power rankings. But, yeah, I mean, like, look, the Cardinals are so good. Like, they've played so well. Offensively, I think they're probably the number 1 team in football. I don't think that's even
I mean, yeah, just both sides of the football, you know, it's...
So, yeah, I mean, your power rankings make sense. So, to close out the podcast, we got our pick'em, which is what we do every week.
Yes.
So, what do you got? What do you got for the games this week?
Okay, so we got... So for the Thursday night game was going on, and now I had Rams
So did I.
over Seattle.
Yep.
So we have New York Jets at Atlanta, which is actually in London.
So I'm taking the Jets here, actually, I think.
Really?
I might have picked Atlanta on the sheet, but now that I'm thinking about it, Calvin Ridley's not playing. I would probably take the Jets.
I'll take Atlanta.
Okay. Fair enough.
Green Bay, Cincinnati.
So, like I said earlier, this could be a real big trap game for Green Bay. Even though people talk about trap games where it's playing a bad team and losing. Cincinnati's 3-1, so I can't really say they're a bad team. I'm using air quotes with my fingers right now. But like Green Bay being ranked 4 for us, right? And 3 on NFL Network, and then the Bengals not being in anybody's top 10. It's a trap game. But I am going to take the Packers. I'm still going to ride with my boys, so Green Bay.
So, Joe Mixon, 90% sure he's out.
Correct.
So, I think you might like this take. But if there was ever a game that's going to expose Kevin King, it's this one. I think Joe Burrow has his best game of his career and absolutely destroys the Packers. I'm not saying the scoreboard. I'm saying that Joe Burrow is going to throw for like 450 yards.
You could be right. The thing about it is Green Bay is offensively strong enough still to keep up with a high-scoring offense. So it could come down to the wire. I just think our defense is pretty bad right now without Jair, without, Zadarius Smith. We brought in Jalen Smith. I doubt he'll be ready for the game. So it's going to be Chris Barnes. It's going to be Devondre Campbell. It's not going to be a high-flying middle linebacker core, rather.
So we got Detroit at Minnesota. I'm taking Minnesota.
I actually think I did take Detroit here. I can look at mine, but I definitely took Minnesota. What am I thinking?
Okay, and then we have Denver at Pittsburgh.
Who you got for that? Because I'm kind of conflicted on that one.
I have the Steelers.
You have the Steelers?
Yeah. I didn't even think about it.
Actually, on my pick'em, I did take Detroit. I did take Detroit as an upset.
Okay.
But Denver, Pittsburgh, I am going Denver. Because I think
Teddy Bridgewater
did practice today. So if he plays, it's definitely Denver for me.
Steelers. Miami at Tampa Bay.
This is a really important game for Tampa Bay to win pretty handedly. I think they need to regain some confidence. Definitely going to go Tampa Bay here.
I'll go Tampa.
Yeah.
New Orleans at Washington.
Washington. Go Heineke, baby.
Yeah, I can't really vote against him. I got Washington.
Yep.
Philadelphia at Carolina.
Carolina. You gotta go with Carolina with the way their defense has played and the fact that Philly is kind of inconsistent.
I went with Carolina.
So did I.
Tennessee at Jacksonville.
Tennessee needs to win this game because that loss to the Jets just, we talk about how the Bills losing to the Steelers is a blemish on their record. Talk about blemish on records. Tennessee needs this game because if they lose to the Jags and the Jets in back-to-back weeks, I mean, what a joke.
So, I have Tennessee.
Yeah, so do I.
I think Derrick Henry is going to go off.
Probably rush for 225-plus yards, to be honest.
New England, Houston?
I went New England. I mean, Houston's struggling. I don't know when Tyrod Taylor will be back, but my boy Davis Mills does not look as good as
I will tell you that, not saying they're going to win a division, but Patriots, I think their defense is going to carry them. And Mac Jones is playing pretty good.
Well, they're definitely not going to win the division because they're playing in the Bills division. So, yeah. But I agree. So Patriots it is, right?
Chicago at Raiders.
This, in my opinion, will be a blowout for the Raiders. Like, the Raiders are going to kick the crap out of the Bears. I mean, it should happen that way. The Bears are still pretty bad. Don't let a win against the Lions fool you. What are you thinking? Because you're kind of just staring at me like, what do you know? Okay, you got the Raiders?
Yeah.
Good.
I don't know
Good,
about
good,
a
good.
blowout, but
Okay. Hey, man, we got different opinions. That's fine.
I'm very interested to see what you're going to pick for Browns versus Chargers.
So I hate myself for this because it's mostly that I want them to win. So I'm going with the Browns. That's not to say I think that they will win, but I'm going with them for the pick'em as an upset.
Chargers win. Baker Mayfield throws 3 interceptions.
Nah, I don't know about that, but we'll see.
Giants versus Dallas. I have Dallas winning by 35.
The spread on that game, I have to check this real quick because I can only imagine that it's probably at least 15. The Cowboys are good, man. They're real good, and the Giants are not. Wow, they only have the spread at 7. That's pretty good. If you're a betting person, like minus 106 for minus 7 on the spread it's pretty damn good odds. I'll take that all day. Anyway, moving on.
San Francisco at Arizona.
I don't think it's a debate, but again, divisional rivals could go a little bit. It could get a little bit more interesting, but I think Arizona by a long shot.
Yeah, I think Arizona's gonna. I mean, Trey Lance. I think he's starting. I'm not sure.
I think he is. I think they said Garoppolo is going to be a couple weeks at least.
So this is the way I look at it. So you got Trey Lance starting. You have George Kittle that might not play. He might play. He's still questionable. Cardinals are going to absolutely take away Deebo Samuel. So who do they got? Moving on. Buffalo at Kansas City.
Buffalo, Kansas City. Oh, yeah, Buffalo. I said this earlier. Buffalo Bills by a long shot. I don't like Kansas City's defense, and the Buffalo is way more balanced on both sides of the ball.
You see, Dawson.
What you thinking?
I think.
Now, this could be a really big get-right game for Kansas City, though. Not that they're playing a bad opponent, but they could really use a win against a good one.
Yeah, I'll take Buffalo.
Yeah, I went with Buffalo.
Indianapolis at Baltimore.
I took Indy.
Why?
I've been taking Indy all year. I'm not going to stop now. I've taken a lot of losses on Indy, but I'm going Indy against Baltimore. I think their defense is still better than Baltimore's offense is. Now, the thing is, Baltimore might be getting Rashad Bateman back, and we have not seen him play yet, but he was a first-round pick, and I think he was, and some people are going to hate me for this because Jamar Chase is playing lights-out football. I think he was the best wide receiver in that draft. Bateman looked really good. I was hoping the Packers would get him. They didn't. They wanted him. They pretty much made that public. But he should be coming back from an injury, and that really opens up the field for Lamar Jackson. But I'm still going to ride with Indy because I've done it all year, and you know what? I really want them to win this game and go back to getting some wins here and there. 2-3 is a lot easier than 1-4. So.
Yeah, I got Indy.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I think that the biggest thing for Baltimore, I think, is they don't have a running game.
They also, funny enough, the Colts have been pretty efficient through the air when Carson Wentz has played, other than when he was injured real bad. And they don't, let's be honest, the Ravens' pass rush isn't really that daunting. So as long as the O-line holds up for the first time in 4 weeks.
Which Nelson is on IR, I believe.
Yes, he is. But they didn't do too bad last week against Miami. And I wouldn't say Miami's pass rush is that much worse than Baltimore's. So I would like to see the Indianapolis Colts really get go on a roll. I stuttered through that whole thing. But I think they could actually win this game this week.
The Colts have a very hard schedule.
Yes, they do.
I'm not saying the Ravens are not a good team. They definitely are. But I think that the Colts need to win every game that they can. And I think that starting the season 1-3, not very good.
Yeah, especially when you're against some what seem to be beatable opponents within.
Here's like some upcoming opponents. So we got the 49ers, a Titans the next week. So that's back to back, and we're going to that game.
Yeah, super hyped, by the way. This is going to be awesome.
And then they have 2 games after that, which is Jets and Jags.
Yep.
Then they have the Bills in Buffalo.
That's not where you want to be.
And then they go back home to play the Bucks.
Bills Mafia is a tough crowd to play against at home. And then the Bills on their team themselves are really good. So that's a hostile environment crowd-wise, and it's a real good football team you're playing. And then you go back to play the Bucks. That's tough back-to-back.
Then you go from there, you play the Texans. After that, you go back home and you play Bill Belichick, who has absolutely destroyed the Colts whenever they played.
Pretty much his entire career.
Literally.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's just a fact. And as a Colts fan, that probably hurts you to say, but at least it's true. You're not lying.
He's outcoached
You're not delusional.
he's outcoached every coach that he's played against for the Colts.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even like the players.
Would you say the last great coach the Colts had was Dungy? Not to go on a tangent here, but I'm just curious what you think.
I'm going to say that if our GM at the time wasn't an idiot and traded for Trent Richardson,
Yeah, I'd give up a first-round pick for Richardson.
I think that Chuck Pagano was a very good coach.
Yeah. I mean, and it seems like the players really like Chuck Pagano, too.
He's still in the league.
Yeah, he coaches for the Bears. He's their DC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And their defense has been pretty damn good since he got there. I just think they lack a little bit of talent this year. Khalil Mack has not played to the level he could. So
This is the last 4 games for the
Colts.
Patriots, Cardinals, Raiders, Jags.
So 3 of those are winnable, but Cardinals is going to be a tall order. However, depending on the order of those games.
It's week 15.
So if the Cardinals are in a position to be a playoff team, regardless of if they lose a week or 2, they might bench some starters, so you might have a shot. But that's really tall order of a schedule.
It is a very tough schedule. Like I said, the Colts have a very good shot at making the playoffs, maybe even win the division, but they definitely need to get their running game going. I think Carson Wentz, he needs that. I don't think he's going to be able to pass the ball for 40 times a game. I think that you need to give Jonathan Taylor the ball. We have a lot of depth on our team. There's no like big, huge like
Holes.
stars, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like for offense, like our weapons. T.Y. is coming back, but he's going to be slowly.
He's also week to week right now, so there's no guarantee that he'll be back next week or this week or the week after that.
And he has a neck injury, and they want to make sure like when he's ready to go,
he's ready.
Because
those injuries are really serious to come back from. Look at Peyton. You know, like I mean, there's some serious shit that goes into those injuries, and you got to be sure you're 100%.
And I know Ty, if he's gonna play, he wants to be the ghost.
So, I think that's all we got for today. So, do you have anything else you wanted to talk about, or is that about it?
So a couple weeks ago, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we talked about it for the NBA. So Andrew Wiggins was talking about how he didn't want to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
And he tried to do he said he didn't want to get it for religious purposes.
Yeah, religious
They
reasons.
shut that down. And so there was a big question whether he was going to get the vaccine and be able to play at home games. He did get it.
Yeah.
He did.
So he got it, which I think he said something along the lines of that he felt forced.
He did feel forced. Now,
Kyrie
Irving
yeah.
has not got it, and he has not really.
He's also kind of refusing to do that. So it is interesting to see what will happen in the next 2 weeks or
New
whatever.
New York's one of those states where they try everything first.
Well, New York's also one of those states that's. I'm not trying to make it political, but they're going to. How do I put this without sounding like a douchebag?
They want to enforce the vaccine.
Yes, they're
That's
more
a good word for it.
They're more concentrated on enforcing the vaccine than certain other states, and it has nothing to do with like we have very different political views.
Yeah.
So that this is not a political podcast, but it is something to note because we're going to talk about NBA, probably NHL, and those are going to be really important topics coming up.
Now we don't know the reason because it said just personal reason, but Calvin Ridley not playing.
Yeah.
And they're going to London, and he just said it was personal reason, so we don't know if if he did get it or if he didn't get it. We don't.
Well, I don't know if it has anything to do with that, but Coach Arthur Smith said, "We are in support of Calvin during this time, and we will respect his privacy on the matter." So I'm assuming that it's not COVID related.
I wouldn't think so because I don't know if all those players are actually vaccinated or not to go to London.
Well, like I said, I think that the way that Arthur Smith phrased that is that it's probably family related, and
Right.
that they're thinking of him in this time. So hopefully, thoughts and prayers for Calvin Ridley, no matter what's going on.
Absolutely.
His health and his family obviously come first. So, yeah. But as far as COVID goes, going into NHL and NBA season, it will be really interesting to see what happens because crossing borders and playing in different states and the different regulations and rules
States,
are going to be really,
countries,
Yeah.
like we live in Sault Ste. Marie, so it's like, well,
border town.
you know, like everyone's saying if we want to go to Canada, you have to have a vaccine passport. If they want to come over here, vaccine passport is like, is that going to happen to NBA and NHL? You know, like they go
Well,
to
and then
Canada.
the other thing about if we go to Canada as like just civilians is we have to stay there. There's a wait time. It's like a quarantine. So I don't know how that works. But I'm sure that they'll figure that out. There's billions of dollars at stake. These businesses don't want to lose money, so they will figure it out no matter what. But it is going to be a tall order, I think, going into these seasons for these sports.
So let's. I'm going to ask you something real quick.
What's up?
Who's your prediction for the NBA championship team?
God, that's so tough.
Right on the spot. I'm telling you.
It's really tough, and I don't want to say the Lakers because it's the Lakers. It's the Lakers. Westbrook, LeBron, AD. How do you beat that? Well, the answer to how you beat that is KD, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, right? I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. I mean, like, I don't know.
What about Giannis?
I love Giannis. He's probably my favorite player in the NBA, and I'm a Timberwolves fan. So, unfortunately. So
I'm not trying to get on a big
an NBA
topic about it,
Yeah.
but I'm just asking because right now, I would have the Lakers. I don't think you could tell me that any team on paper.
There are great basketball teams in the NBA.
I think that one team that's going to shock everybody is the Bulls.
They could.
I think the Bulls and the Heat both have very good teams.
I agree, but I just think that there's so much offensive firepower on both the Nets and the Lakers rosters that it's hard to pick one. Like if you're asking me who I would rather put $10 on FanDuel right now, it's the Lakers. Like I just don't think that there's any chance you pick somebody
We
else.
haven't seen the Nets yet.
No, we never really got to it. It seemed like there was a rotation every other week of players who were hurt. So it was like, oh, James Harden and KD are there, but Kyrie's out. Or Kyrie and Harden are there, but KD's out. Or vice versa, et cetera, et cetera. So it will be interesting to see going forward what those teams look like next
So you have the
year,
Lakers?
fully healthy. Yeah, I'm going Lakers.
NHL, who do you got?
That's tougher. That's much tougher because, again, you and I aren't super well versed in hockey yet. Like, I've learned a lot, and
Yeah.
you're still getting into it a little bit yourself again. So,
I'm talking like a bold prediction. It's like it could be somebody that didn't play good last year.
that's tough, man. I'm not picking the Lightning again. I'll tell you that for free. I'll go with the Oilers.
The Oilers?
Yeah, McDavid's so good. I mean, they still need to work on their team a little bit, but I'll go with the Oilers, Edmonton.
That's fair.
If you want a bold prediction.
I'll go with the Canadians.
Yeah, I mean, they looked damn good. I really liked them. My dark horse candidate was the Wild last year, Minnesota.
Stafford just threw an interception in the red zone at the 5-yard line.
Whoops,
8-yard line, sorry.
that's tough. But hey, it's not those seasons yet, so I guess we'll give it a couple weeks before we start making any major predictions. But
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's all we got for today, isn't it?
Yeah, that was like 40 minutes past what we really wanted to do.
A little bit longer than we were expecting to. So you can follow us at Crown Sports or Crown_Sports_IG. You can follow us on Twitter at Crown_Sports with a 0. and you can find us on Facebook at Crown Sports. We love you guys, and watch some football this weekend.
Please comment, like, and subscribe.
Yeah, you could do that too. That would be nice.
Don't have to, really. It's kind of optional.
Yeah, but we appreciate feedback.
If you guys got to this point, like, shout out to you, because this is an hour and 20 minutes into this video.
All right, well, we should probably go. So, deuces.
Doses.